Welcome to Astro Talk. Today with a really special guest. This is in the works for 10 years at least. Professor Campion, welcome.
Thank you, Volker.
Uh,
I'm a fan of your uh, web page and your interviews, so I'm finally making it. I'm very glad.
and to tell you the truth, it's the right time because one of your Sophia Press Center books, this talk is a new beginning and an ending. You are one of the last important people on Astro Talk, and because of your Sophia Center Press astrologies in astrology, we have a new homepage, Astrologies in Astrology, and we start on Monday with Chris Mitchell, which you know very well. But now first, let's get off some legal problems. Copyright. I have only the right to publish the respective conversation uncut and unedited on freely accessible video platforms or no paywalls and on my homepage. My guest, Professor Campion, has the right to shorten, edit, or add to the MP4 file, which I will send him via Swiss transfer as he wishes, and to publish it on his websites and video platforms according to his liking. In short, you can do with it whatever you like. Is that okay?
That's absolutely fine and very generous.
Um, if you remember, we come back to your starting point in academia, but I wanted to show the viewers something of a friend of mine in Hanover, which is Gustav Adolf Schöner, and he has been to a conference in June 2012 in Bath, Spa, United Kingdom, Astrology in Time and Place. Do you remember, Gustav?
I remember Gustav very well. Yes, I'm also a big supporter of Gustav's work.
And you remember talking with, he had a talk about where to place astrology in academia. And we come back to this. When you met Gustav, you have already done your PhD, but that was not so easy to do. Can you talk about the story when you wandered from one faculty department to another to get your PhD done? But before you do that, could you tell us why and when you decided to do a PhD?
Well, the distant ancestry of this, the origin story, is that um, I, I I'm a lover of history. I've always considered myself a historian, and I about 1980, so 45 years ago, I began to realize that the astrology which was being taught to aspiring practical astrologers was located in the modern world. And then I discovered, as one does, there are many different systems. So I then began to study the history of astrology. So that went on in parallel with other writing and so on. And then it was 1996. I decided, look, I really need to study a PhD. I've got a topic. It wasn't the first time I thought about doing a PhD, but it's the first time I had a topic. And what had happened was I'd become a kind of um, a focal point for questions about astrology in the media. So journalists would phone me up and say, "We're doing a story on astrology. The editor wants to know how many people believe in it and why." And I used to bluff because nobody'd asked why people believe in astrology, or there's never been an academic question. It had just been assumed, So sociologists and scientific skeptics assumed it was people believe in astrology because they're marginal or uneducated or or have a mental problem. So I applied first of all to the University of Bristol. This is 1996 to the history department under Professor Ronald Hutton, who's a very distinguished professor of paganism, particularly in Britain.
To put it
And
a little bit more interesting for the viewers, he did a lot of. I read a lot of his books in the library of the University of Hanover on witchcraft.
yes,
He
yes,
he has a focus on the history of witchcraft, and I can recommend Professor Hutton's book on witchcraft.
yeah, 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 no, absolutely. He's a really major and very individual figure. So yeah, paganism, witchcraft, and so he wanted to accept me. The the history faculty decided that my topic was not history but sociology. So sent me to the sociology faculty, where of course there was nobody to supervise me. So that was that. And so I then discovered a little university nearby, Bath Spa University, a new university, who had a very, very active study of religions department. I went to see them. They welcomed me because they were already doing a lot of New Age studies, distinguished people like Michael York, Marion Bowman on the faculty. So they welcomed me. And so my PhD then went into a context of the study of religions.
Which is the context of Gustav Adolf Schöner, who was an academic in the Department of Religious Science in Hanover Leibniz University with Professor Anders, a really famous religious scholar.
Yeah.
And you were in this you said new university. When was it founded?
It sometime in the 1970s, I think, as a teacher training college.
Ah, okay.
And then there was a gradual change in status to being what was called a university college, which was a halfway house. It became a university actually when I was already there in about the year 2000, like a full university.
This is very interesting for the further story we will talk about. In this Department of Religious Science in the new University of Bath by United Kingdom, um, how do I visualize you? Did you have to attend courses there for your PhD, or did you just write the thesis?
I didn't have to attend courses because in the UK, most PhDs are by research only. But I did attend classes out of personal interest because
Okay.
I didn't have a background in the study of religions, which has a particular focus.
Okay, let me ask you something
Yeah,
in this context. When I was after my retirement from civil service in the Ministry of Economics in Lower Saxony, I started a PhD on astrology and law in 2005, and in 2005 till 2011, 12 semesters, I studied religious science and philosophy of science in Leibniz University. And in the religious science department, we have two fractions: the phenomenologists and the deconstructionists, I would say. How was that in your university? Was this discussion going on?
um, it was firmly phenomenological, which means
Which
you know,
means you had the Spirit and the and the divinity in your faculty.
no, what it means in the British context is that you look at a phenomenon and you don't try to speculate on any underlying reasons or causes. So if somebody
Ah,
says,
okay,
I
okay.
am possessed by the Holy Spirit, then you just accept what they say. You don't have to ask, is this true or not, or why they're saying it. You say, okay, that's what you say.
But
So,
you are not going like for the German scholar Professor Otto, the holy in religion. You didn't study that.
well, it comes into it because you need to know about the background. So you need to know about the academic debates that go on between um, secularization, between there's the great academic Rudolf Otto who wrote
Yeah,
his book on the idea of the
that's what
holy.
I said. Yeah.
So you need to know all those debates, but the main perspective was on being non-judgmental. So
Ah,
just
okay,
look at what people do, look
okay,
at what they say they do, look at what they say they think, and so you're trying to find out about human behavior really, and that interpretation of phenomenology. Just look at the phenomenon,
okay. So
don't look for anything beyond it.
you did those courses, and then you worked on your research project, um, and you finished the PhD in what year?
2004.
Oh,
Uh,
that's interesting. Now we are coming to a turning point in Professor Campion's life. On the weekend of the 13th to the 14th of June 2003, your life changed dramatically. Is that correct?
you'd have to remind me. Astrology in the Academy.
Yes. And what happened on the 13th and 14th of June?
Well, we had a conference.
you founded Astrology and Academy, right?
Well, we gave the time, we gave that collection of papers that title, Astrology and the Academy.
No,
So,
no, I mean something else. It
ah,
was it was the Sophia Center
oh, the Sophia Center.
what
No,
was
okay,
doing the conference.
yeah, it was. Okay, that
And
was
could
because
could
Sophia.
could could I say that the Sophia Center at that weekend was presented to the world?
Well, that was a stage of it. That was our first public event. The center was named and agreed to be set up at Bar University in early 2002,
Okay,
and we began teaching the Masters in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology in the first week of October 2002.
okay.
So then, yes, that book you're holding up is the record of our first conference,
Now coming
academic
coming
conference.
to Sophia Center, behind the Sophia Center, which we will talk a lot about today, is the so-called Sophia Trust, which is something different from the Urania Trust.
Yeah.
The conference was sponsored and partly funded by the Urania Trust. What is that?
The Urania Trust dates back to the 1970s when there was a grant of £1 million to fund really research into astrology. And it's still going. It still has funds to dispense. For a while in the 1990s, the trust actually had a building in London that served as a centre for seminars and held a library. So now it dispenses grants mainly for, research into astrology, and that research could be, anthropological or historical like mine, or it could be scientific.
And then there is the Sophia Trust.
Yes.
Where, when did that come into being?
The Sophia Trust was set up in around 1997 to 8, and again with a bequest of £1 million. And the intent was to develop the study of astrology in university level education. And
And you had something to do with since when? Were you with it from the beginning?
I was not officially involved, but what happened, and this is very important to understand, is that in around 1998 or 9, there was a meeting in Britain, a physical meeting of a group of academics from different universities and representatives of astrology schools and societies. And there it was decided that the astrological schools were doing a good enough job of teaching the practice of astrology. And therefore, the purpose of the Sophia Trust was to fund critical studies of the practice, theory, culture, history of astrology at university level. So that was an important distinction. So in that sense, some people talk about at the time astrology returning to academia. Well, it actually didn't. What happened was that a space was given to the study of the history, culture, philosophy, practices of astrology from mainly a humanities perspective.
£1 million twice? Was it the same person donating that money
No,
or
different,
different people?
different people.
And that's worldwide the only time that this sort of money was donated to do something with astrology, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and when did you come into contact with this money?
Well, I mean, I was one of the network who was pulled into discussions with the Sophia Trust from the beginning, and then the trust donated money to sponsor the creation of the Sophia Centre originally at Bath Spa University. starting 2002. And then in 2007, the centre transferred to the University of Wales. And at that point, the trust produced some further very generous and very helpful sponsorship.
Let's get a bit little more into it. What was your role? What was your first, when were you really involved in the Sophia Trust, or is it to understand, do I understand you right? You are not really in the trust at all. You are not on the board of the trust.
No, I was never on the board of the trust. No, but there was an advisory board. Okay, so there's the charitable board, which was the trustees who are responsible
Yes?
for the money, and then an advisory board, of which I was a member.
Ah, okay. So now let's get into the everyday work, and we can get rid of this. Okay, this is not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. Your academic fame from the point of a German, you are famous for this. And that has a background. It's a two-volume. It's, I believe, the largest history of astrology worldwide. Is that correct?
It is correct, and of course it deals, as the title says, only with Western astrology, but it's by far the largest. And its distinguishing point is that it deals comprehensively with the ancient world, going right through to the modern world.
And it has a background with the Faculty of Astrology in London, right?
Sorry, Volker, say that again.
It has a background, how it came into being, and that is with the Faculty of Astrology in London, right?
Oh yeah, okay. So, um, I the ancestry of this is in 1982. I was asked to prepare a 5 week, 5 evening course on the history of astrology for the Faculty of Astrological Studies, and I wrote so many notes for the course that the faculty asked me to publish them, and that became a small book, an introduction to the history of astrology, which became the faculty course book. And that was the first time, I think, a course on the history of astrology had been taught of that duration. And then I just continued to work on the topic. And then in so the mid 90s, I was asked to write a updated history of Western astrology, and I wrote so much. I wrote 4 times the commissioned length, so they published 2 volumes, and that's
Okay.
it. No, yeah,
That means this book was published in 2008, I believe. Is that right?
yes,
Yes. And 2009, the volume two. So this is already when you were at Bath Spa University. No, this is already in Lampeter, the
that's right.
University of
Al-
Trinity of St. David in
Already
Lampeter in
University of
Wales.
London. Yeah.
So this is parallel to your work in Bath Spa University and then in Lampeter. And now let's get to some of the books of the Sophia Center Press because I have some questions to them. For the viewers, the reason why I'm not talking about the biography of our guest is because there's a lot of information of this special site, which I come to later. So here is a book, and it was 2008 in the Warburg Institute, and it was organized by Professor Charles Burnett, which we have interviewed recently on our AstroTalk YouTube channel, and Dorian Giesler Greenbaum, which was one of the first practicing astrologers who did a PhD in the Warburg Institute about the diamond, a very interesting book, which I can recommend to read. It's a very large book. And the conference was in 2008. And the Sophia Center Press publishes in 2015. And the reason I'm coming to this is, can you elaborate on the everyday problems of a publisher as you are? Because you are one of the owners of Sophia Press, I believe.
Yeah, I work closely with Jen Zart.
He became recently your second owner, right?
Yeah.
So it's two people who own this company. Is it a limited company or what is it?
Yeah, it's a limited company. And
So you have 50-50, you two?
yes.
So you are two people. How many employees?
Well, it's basically us two, and then we bring in other freelancers.
Okay, so two people, Sophia Press, and now let us get into your everyday problems with publishing academic papers on cosmological astronomy and astrology. 7 years, is that normal for a conference to be published?
Um, Actually, um, it's not unknown. Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, some books take years and years and years to be published. Some come out quite quickly. I mean, now there's often an emphasis on quick publication, and then uh, everything runs into problems and nothing happens. So, I was involved in a conference a couple of years ago, and they said, right, we want your paper within 3 months. And then, of course, 2 years later, it's still not published.
Okay.
So, basically, you know, I think there's problems throughout the publishing industry, actually, which well, maybe problems throughout the entire world, actually, to do with management. People change, people get sick, and so on. Processes don't work. So, with my experience of publishing, sometimes, when we do conference proceedings, Uh, and I also published the journal Culture and Cosmos, which is in partnership with university. So you might you get some very good submissions, and then you get submissions which actually need a huge amount of editing.
Yes.
So that slows everything
So,
right
okay,
now.
when we talk about this editing, I have a friend who is an editor in Tübingen, Reinhard Stiele, in for the German public. This is the main specialized publishing press for astrology nowadays. In 1990s and in 2000, there were more publishers, but nowadays he's more or less the only one in Germany, in German-speaking books. Um, he told me about these problems. When you have a book like this one, this from Mashallah to Kepler, um, how many freelance people do you engage in a project like that?
Well, we will have one person to do the layout,
Okay,
and sometimes one person to do the indexing.
that's all.
And
One,
and then
only two.
as far as editing is concerned, I think in that case, uh, me and Dorian did all the editing, but I can also employ a copy editor as well. Because you've got two levels to the editing. One is the academic level, right? Is an argument justified? Is a claim referenced and supported? And that's a job for the academic editor. But then if serious copy editing is required, then we'll use a copy editor. And I'm very happy with that. For people for whom English is a second language, I'm very happy to employ copy editors. For people for whom English is their first language and they still need a copy editor, then well, I'll often just send the paper back to them and say, please
Okay.
edit this. Yeah.
So this is one book. This is the one book for our new project, Astrologien in der Astrologie, Astrologies in Astrology, which I will change the title if you want. Um, and then there's this book by Liz Green, which is very readable,
Yeah.
interesting. This was republished. Why did you republish Prophecy and Power with Patrick Carey?
Well, because well, first of all, obviously it's out of print, but also it's a seminal text, but in the history of astrology in Britain, and therefore in the historiography of astrology as a whole. So um, Patrick was looking at astrology uh, and its socio economic pressures. Okay, so this is early modern England, so mainly the 17th century. Now, um, in the 17th century in England, there was a huge religious tension between uh, Puritans and people who were still almost hanging on to a Roman Catholic framework. This is, part of the Reformation, and also the beginnings of scientific inquiry. And so there were gigantic tensions in 1642. Civil war broke out in England. There was a republic from 1649 to 60. The king was executed. It's a hugely traumatic time in English history. And England had a very early revolution. And so these complex processes led to different attitudes to astrology. So, for example, astrology, Patrick shows, became associated with radicalism. And so after 1660, one of the pressures on astrology was that it was regarded as potentially subversive. The term that was given to it was enthusiastic. So people who were enthusiastic were liable to, challenge the established order.
And that means that is the reason, because of this revolutionary touch, that Elias Ashmole was in correspondence with John Butler in 1680, and the lamentation was, "Do you hear the news from Alma Mater? All astrology must be banished."
Yes.
And would you agree that this participation of William Lilly and other astrologers in the Parliament side in that conflict with Charles I, uh, in the end resulted in the law against astrology in 1680?
Well, Patrick regards that as important. So his argument is then that uh, the common argument that astrology lost its reputation because of the rise of science
Yes.
and rationalism
Okay. So people,
is not really correct. In
so
England, it was a political.
so we recommend people to read this book if they want to know about these contexts. By the way, Sophia Trust giving money to does the Sophia Trust gives the money to the university, Trinity St. David, Lampeter, Wales, or does the Sophia Trust gives the money to the Sophia Center?
Gave the money to the university.
Okay, and the university has the money. Did the university give the Sophia Center Press money for publishing things like that, or do you have to
Um,
earn enough income to publish these books?
no, there was a time when we could draw on our university budget to publish, but now um, we just the press is self-supporting now.
So you have to sell
One way,
books. You have to sell books to continue the work.
one way we're self-importing is self-supporting is through we run short courses, and so basically short courses are 5 evenings of their academic study, but aimed at a general audience, so people can uh, come along. They don't have to do any work, but it's academic material. So our next short course is with Bernadette Brady on fate in astrology,
So now let's look
going
at
on her
let's
PhD.
look at what you are doing all the time. You talked about your pivoting to this astrology, and you are associate professor in cosmology and culture.
Yes,
That is inside the university or inside the Sophia Center?
in the university.
What are you doing there?
In the university.
Yeah.
Well, the Sophia Center is part of the university. It's a teaching and research center within the Institute of Education and Humanities
So it's a
in the
sort of
university.
an academic institute, something like that.
Yes. Although it's yeah, we have different centers in the university. There's a Confucius Center, for example, which studies Chinese Confucian culture. So there are different centers within the university.
And Sophia Center is one of them.
Yeah.
And when you are associate professor in cosmology and culture. What are the titles of your seminars? Give us some examples.
Well,
Lectures
yeah,
and seminars, I believe. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I mean, we have four. Students have to do four taught modules. Okay, and then write a dissertation.
Okay.
So I mean, the titles of
That's
our
for that's
modules,
for the MA, cosmological astronomy and astrology.
MA in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology.
Yes.
So the Sophia Center,
So just a
the
minute.
Sophia
Does
Center.
does that mean that you only teach on the MA level on university, no bachelor students?
No, I taught bachelor students 1 year, but that was all.
On
Um,
since then, you are now a professor on the postgraduate level.
and I have PhD students as well.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
So MAs and PhD students, which is a nicer work than having freshly students on the bachelor degree applying. Okay, what sort of titles do you personally, not the whole course, just you personally teach?
Well, I mean, I teach on the whole course, if I have to. So,
Oh, okay.
so, and it's all dependent on, the titles of the modules. So we have a module called Cosmology, Magic and Divination,
Okay.
which is the one that Dorian Greenbaum runs. Sacred Geography, which Bernadette Brady runs. Sacred Skies, also uh, Bernadette Brady, Darlene Gunsberg. Um, we have Foundations in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology, which includes consideration of what a cosmology is. And so our point, you see, the way we use the word cosmology is we've got it two. What the main meaning is, it's anthropological. So how the way in which people construct meaning in the world anthropologically can be called a cosmology. So we look at that, and we also look at any cultural consequences of cosmology. So, for example,
But this means you said you teach all of it when
well,
somebody is on
I can do
yeah,
because
but that means
I'm
if somebody's
I'm the
on
program.
vacation, if somebody's on
Yeah,
vacation, you step in. But that means you have to be up to date all the time, don't you?
yes, we do always up to date with the latest publications and
Jesus Christ,
research.
that in your personal context, that means how many hours a day are you working?
Well, I probably do every day. Um,
12 hours at least, right?
no, I'll break it down. I may do 2 hours of administration. I may do 5 hours of dealing with, marking student work, supervising PhDs, and 2 or 3 hours of my own writing or editing. So I do, yeah,
A
50 hours a
fairly
week.
a fairly full-time job.
50 hours
Okay,
a week.
okay. Now we have only 60 minutes altogether, so I come back to this book. Why does the Sophia Press Center republish this very good book? It's a very good book from 2000, I believe. Why republish it?
Well, again,
Was it changed or just the old text?
um, it's edited. Okay, so again, we're republishing it because it was out of print. It's an important work because it's the first book uh, that contained interviews with astrologers about what they do and what they think. Now, and that's important because that then became an important part of the MA in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology.
Okay.
So Gary Phillipson in this book led the way, and again his approach was non-judgmental.
Yes,
He was
yes.
ask astrologers what they do. Don't judge it. Don't say that's silly, that's wonderful, that's whatever. Ask them what they do. So again, it was phenomenological.
And is this book still available, the conference book from 2003?
That book is actually not available, no, unless you
Okay.
can find a second-hand copy.
Okay, and now we have to change subject because time is running. And now my computer strikes. Oh no, he is. Okay, for the viewers, the reason why I didn't talk about his biography of our guest, there's a special site. The main site is astrotalk.vonabisw.de, and there's a special site, Talk with Professor Nicolas Campion. And we have his homepage is in the works at the moment, I believe. There is nothing on there.
No,
But
no, no, there is nicholascampion.org. Yeah.
no, you are
Oh,
maintenance man.
okay. In that case, it's being updated, but it
Yes,
is
you are on. That's what I meant.
active. Yeah.
Basically, this I wanted. Okay, here is something for our viewers, which are, oh, Jesus Christ. Your page is too long. Okay, this is what I wanted to show the viewers. All the information about what Nicolas Campion, our professor guest today, did in the past is in 38 videos. There's a very nice interview with the Ad Astra project with Luis Ribeiro and Helena Avila, which is deceased, unfortunately. And there you can see you can get all the information about his background and his talks. And there's a long talk about the book with Patrick Carey on the podcast, the Astrology podcast with Chris Brennan. That's a lot about this book alone, Prophecy and Power. You have 2 hours and 10 minutes. And you can see there was no need for me to repeat all that. So that is the reason why we didn't talk about all that. And then we have talked about this book, and then you can get the dissertation we were talking about. You can get on the internet. It is 384 pages, and it's called Prophecy, Cosmology, and the New Age Movement, the Extent and Nature of Contemporary Belief in Astrology, where he was interviewing a lot of astrologers. Don't have the time to go into that, but you can read all that. It's all explained in detail. And then we have this. Now, there's a question I have. Is my impression right? You have the Speaker journal, which is publishing very well MA theses, right?
Yes.
But you don't publish any good MA paper in the Sophia Press Center, right?
No, we do. We do.
Oh,
We
you do.
publish in the Sophia Center Press. There's a book jointly edited with Francis Kleins that is all student papers. It's adaptations of student dissertations. We have an uh, an annual postgraduate conference in our Lampeter campus in sorry, our London campus in London, where we have about 8 of our recent graduates talking, and those there's a book based on uh, those conferences, which
So
I
basically,
edited with Francis Klein.
one could say there are excellent works which will be entered on the academic level of Sophia Center Press, and there are those who are still good, but a little below of that level, and they are in the Speaker Journal, right?
Well, no, no, it's not that they're below that, but it's just that the Sophia Center Press published a volume of essays based on dissertations. So 15,000 word dissertations distilled into lectures, whereas Spiker publishes the best essays from individual modules, and it'll publish MA work from um, other universities as well if it's offered, if it's relevant.
Does it
Uh,
happen?
no, it hasn't happened yet, and that's because obviously almost we are almost the only people who offer any opportunities in this area.
Okay. So the next big project of our guest is Culture in Cosmos. When did that start?
1997.
And is it still printed or today
Yes,
only in?
no, yes, it is. It's a bit delayed. I'm currently working on both issues from 2004 and a major issue for 2005. So my editing got, I explained the difficulties of editing earlier.
Did you mean 2024 or did you to
Yeah,
mean
yeah, 2024.
and
Um, yeah,
2025?
one
Okay.
essay is almost one the issues are just about ready to upload. The second will be ready to upload in about a month, and I'm also working on the 2025 issue, which will be the proceedings of the 12th conference on the inspiration of astronomical phenomena.
And you can download this stuff.
Yeah, all free to download.
When did you decide to give it free to the world?
Um, about I suppose it was about 5 years ago. It
Why?
well because um, it was publishing, but publishing print in these days becomes an issue. So the issues are sometimes available as a single issue, but it just seemed to make much more sense, seeing as the costs are very small, and it can be subsidized from Sophia Centre Press. I think that um, academics, when they've done all this work, that they deserve to have it available, free access, if that's an option in the modern world, as it is.
So,
And often a lot of academic publishers now lock academic papers behind very expensive paywalls. It's fine if you're a member of a university and your university is subscribing to that journal, but otherwise you have to pay £30 or €30 to download a paper. And the author gets nothing from that for all their work. So that money goes purely to sustain the academic publisher. And, authors are under pressure to publish with an academic publisher because they get kudos from it. But basically, there's the things just go round and round, whereby the members of the publishing company get paid and the authors get nothing for a lot of laborious work. So, and that's fine. I participate in that system actually because it's necessary, and I can see its value. But for me, I'd rather make people's work uh, freely available. The costs are minimal. We have just minimal costs to run the website, to pay somebody to manage it. Um, you know, yeah, and editing and so on. So
is the intention of Jen Zart being the second owner of Sophia Center Press that when you retire that she takes over?
um well that would be a question to put to Jen.
You did discuss this, didn't you?
No, no,
You
we
did.
didn't.
You didn't. Oh, okay.
No,
She is actually presently she's president of ESA, right?
she's president of ESA. She's on the Kepler College board. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Kepler College. You have been involved in Kepler College, which is a very different approach to astrology in academia, and it failed in Washington State, in Seattle. Was Kepler College for you an important experience to do things different?
It was extremely important, and fundamentally, Kepler College's approach was it was academic, and it started teaching in 2000, and I was on the faculty along with Dimitra George and Rob Hand. And for a year, we taught the history of astrology, so in three terms, from ancient to modern. And then more classes got added. Then the MA got added. That was a BA. We had an MA and added more classes. So the attitude to teaching astrological practice was critical. So instead of saying like an ordinary astrology school was, um, this is how you uh, calculate secondary progressions and this is what they mean, then the approach was in astrology, right? This is how uh, one way of calculating secondary progressions, and then there's tertiary progressions and so on. And this is what different claims about what they mean. So it was a very, I think, a very good approach, and it was hands off, and it allowed the study of the vocational practice of astrology in an academic context, looking at what they do. Unfortunately, the reason that the academic program failed was not to do with the program. It was to do with the fact that there were when we started, there were two levels of official approval in Washington State. One was I think it was validation, and validation meant that you could teach. And then the next level was accreditation, which was like the official approval. Now, what happened was that um, the gap between validation and accreditation closed. So we could no longer teach but just by being validated. We had to be accredited. And we couldn't find an accrediting body to accredit us. So we approached, there were two main accrediting bodies we approached, and they would say, well, how do we judge this program? We have no precedents, no other standards by which to judge it. So, so really, it was, bureaucratic reason why the academic teaching had to stop,
And what
because it was an
conclusion
excellent
did you
program.
draw? What conclusion did you personally draw from this experience? What did you do differently when you established the MA
Well,
cosmology, astronomy, and astrology?
well, you see, that was established within an existing university
Wait,
and therefore was automatically accredited because the
okay,
university has the accreditation.
yeah, yes. Back to the issue of culture and cosmos. How much workload does this mean for you personally? You are personally the only one doing this, right?
I take it on, yeah. Um, it varies. I suppose it can it can be at the moment it's about 10 hours a week because there's a huge backlog of editing and the INSAP papers are taking a lot.
Yes, yes.
But then
So
but then but then once I've got that finished, it'll there'll be a pause until the next the the next volume that we'll be planning will be papers from another INSAP conference, which was held in Belfast earlier this year, back in June.
now changing subject, before we do that, did we cover your work in Sophia Center Press, Speaker Journal, and Cosmos and Culture sufficiently for your opinion?
I think, yes, I think so, yes.
So we do something which is very unprofessional because I want short answers for topics which need a week's talk. Let's put it this way. The soul in astrology in the chart, Moon and Mercury. What do you think about? Is there a possibility to find the soul in astrology in the chart? Is it possible to do that?
Well, you see, if you ask if it's possible, it's a matter of truth. And what I'm interested in is what astrologers claim. And that theory that the soul can be found in Moon and or Mercury, it's occurs in Claudius Ptolemy. It was Galileo adopted it, so it's just a theory. You see, my theory, my what I would say, more words, if there is a soul, then it would be represented in the whole chart. But that's so I can't make truth claims about that.
Okay. Do you have an opinion on, it's in English now, on this book? Did you read it? That's our friend
So,
Gustav.
yeah. I read it. It's an excellent book. I mean, it's some years since I read it, but it opens up new territory. Gustav is exploring, debating, researching. It's a very important book.
Okay. How about, do you know this book, Hermetic Spirituality?
I know Wouter Hanegraaff and I know his work.
And do you know his book?
I know this book. Yes,
Do you have an opinion on it?
I
Because
do. I think it's an
I
excellent
have it
book.
in my cupboard, and I think it is very intriguing. And would you agree that it's not academic in the sense that you have to believe him because the evidence is not really there?
No, it is an academic book.
Yes, okay,
Yeah. But
the conclusions he's drawing is there's a gap between the evidence, the archaeological evidence, and the papyri, but his conclusions are very intriguing. And do you follow him on his conclusions?
tell me which conclusions you're
Well,
thinking.
that basically the Hermetic tradition goes very far back into sort of temple ritual convening something.
Yeah, but back into Egyptian temple rituals.
Yes,
Yeah,
and meaning direct contact to higher spheres.
yeah. I think so. That's not a controversial statement at all.
Okay.
That would be a very conventional view of the Western Hermetic tradition.
So you would agree that's a very good book.
Yeah, I mean, that's not my primary area of research, but I
No,
accept
okay.
that's the case.
Just we are just
Yeah,
talking about opinions. Yeah.
because that tradition comes via the classical Neoplatonists.
Okay. Now you have been in India when this conflict started with Glenn Perry. Do you remember that?
I do remember it.
Okay. There is David Pingree's work on how astrology came to India. Do you agree with his academic position, how astrology came to India?
Well, I do. So I'm going to, restate this. His position as astrology came to India in Greek texts in the first and second centuries AD, CE, and yeah, and I know that there are sort of Indians who don't like that theory, but I know there are Indian academics who completely accept it. So I accept it because the evidence is there.
So viewers who want to amuse themselves should Google Glenn Perry and Chris Brennan and India, and they will get all the discussions which happened later after this
Yeah,
conference.
and by way to add to what Pingree said, he's talking about the use of horoscopes, okay, as devised in the Middle East and the Hellenistic world, which doesn't mean to say there was no astrology in India before then, because there quite clearly was. If you look
Yes,
at
yeah,
astrology as
let's agree. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, do you have a personal opinion on Nechepso and Petrosiris and on Vatjes Valens?
um, uh, uh, do you mean on whether Valens's work was derived from Nicepsa and Peteziris?
That is one possible approach.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I don't have a view. If you ask me that question, I would have to email Dorian Greenbaum and say, Dorian,
No,
what
no,
do you
no.
think?
Doyne has her position.
Well, I would. Do you know what? That's what I mean.
Your
That's what
personal
I mean.
your
Because that's not my primary area of
No,
research.
I agree. But do you have a personal speculation?
No,
Okay. Do you have a personal speculation on the existence of Nechepso?
no,
And the same on Petrosiris.
no.
You are agnostic on that.
Agnostic.
Okay, very good. Do you have opinion on the importance of the Sassanid Empire and astrology and the Sabians of Haran?
Well, as far as the Sasanian Empire, then it's clearly the case that under that empire, there were a contribution to astrology was made in the form of the Jupiter Saturn cycles and astrology and history. The Sabians, I don't have an opinion on.
Would you agree that in the Sassanid Empire time there was a lot of translation going on from Greek into Persia?
Well, I would agree, but on the basis of what I've read, yes, again,
Uh,
I'm kind of agnostic, but I'll agree with
okay.
it.
Do you have an opinion on the Dodecathymoria, which were mentioned in Manilius and in Firmicus Maternus and a lot of other authors? Do you personally have an opinion on them, on of their importance for delineating a chart?
Uh, no, I have an opinion on them, and that it indicates that astrology was a matter of increasing codification and the mathematization of the universe, but I've no opinion on their usefulness.
On an opinion on zodiacal releasing?
Um, no opinion. Again, I would just say it's an example of the tendency of astrologers to continually create new ways of interpreting a horoscope.
Okay, now an interesting aspect of one of the videos in the film list. You were talking about deconstructing your own work of the last 40 years. What did you mean by that?
I mean, uh, I just think I meant uh, looking at whatever progress I've made in my ideas. And actually, I've come to the conclusion I haven't really made any. I decided that astrology was complex, problematic, in that it's very easy for astrologers to make up any technique they like and for it to work. And so I then just, began to look at the history of it. So I think my work has been continuous for the last 40 years. I just want to mention something in terms of astrologers making things up. Um, Back in the mid 80s, I in a sort of I devised a fixed planet called the planet Pizza. Gave a lecture on it at the Astrological Lodge, and that this is written up. Gary Phillipson interviewed me about this as part of my interview in Astrology in the Year Zero. And the result of that was it demonstrated to me that you can put anything in a horoscope, drop a horoscope in any way you want, and astrologers will find meaning in it. So it was around that time as well that asteroids were being added to the chart. You had some astrologers saying, "Oh, you can't read a chart without using asteroids." So every time astrologers come along and invent a new technique and say, "Oh, you need this technique in order to read a chart," and I think, well, how did astrologers work before? And then it was 1982 the great traditional revival began within the Astrological Lodge and the revival of Lilly 17th century astrology.
Yes, yes.
That was followed 10 years later by the
Did did
Hellenistic
did you
revival.
did you know Olivia Barclay?
I knew her extremely well.
How was she?
Uh, how was she? Oh, she was wonderful, Olivia. She was very charming, very friendly, lovely, lovely. But then once she said to me, she said, "Nick, you know, psychological astrologers aren't real astrologers at all." And I was hearing this at the time, you know, so this is, the early 80s, different kinds of astrologer saying that those astrologers over there, they're not proper astrologers. And then you know, I began to ask myself, well, what is a proper astrologer? And then we still got that those undercurrents in astrology with uh, although they're not very pronounced at the moment, but still those complications of saying, well, why does why is one kind of astrology more effective than another? And a weakness for me of the whole astrological discourse through journals and conferences is that every kind of astrology, every claim for astrology is always demonstrated with positive examples. And back, I think it was again, 40 years ago when I was going through my period of, questioning, I actually wrote an article on uh, using the wrong chart because there was a slightly heretical discussion in the early 80s amongst a few people in London of how you could do the right horoscope reading from the wrong chart. So you know, uh, this is it. So this is why it comes to any astrological technique or claim. I'll just say, well, yeah, fine, but what show me some examples of this not working. Why are there always examples of how it works positively?
This leads to the moment of astrology by Geoffrey Cornelius. Do you agree with him that there is some divination, spiritual higher beings doing something that this works?
Um, I well, okay. I know. I was around when Jeffrey was working out that material before he wrote the book, attending lectures in the Astrological Lodge in London. And I agree that he um, took the same attitude to a lot of astrology as I did, which is how do you demonstrate it? Why are you making these claims? So I just went into like permanent doubt, permanent questioning, but he came up with this new theory. It's a form of divination. I think that I think his book, The Moment of Astrology, it's an important contribution to the literature on astrology. The a question I always had for him was, even though he's doubting whether you can demonstrate astrology scientifically, he still always insisted that you could demonstrate it objectively. Um, so somebody has Saturn in a certain place, the astrologer makes a certain statement, something happens. And the phenomenon of divination is still demonstrated. So I think that Geoffrey was still fundamentally adhering to a scientific model. And that was what I thought. But we I remained full of respect for him. And in fact, when Gary Philipson eventually completed his PhD under my supervision, then Geoffrey Cornelius was one of the examiners for that PhD. So we had a very, but then we still had very good
What
and
was the
respectful
title of the
relations.
PhD of Philipson?
Yeah, it's called Astrology and Truth, and you will find it online. It's either on the repository on the University of Wales Trinity website, or there's a website called Cosmo Critic.
Oh, okay.
Do you know that website?
No.
Okay, Cosmo, COSMO, Critic, CRITIC, and it's on that website. It's a website that yeah, contains really just academic work on astrology. There's a few PhDs there, some MA dissertations.
Okay, very good. Now time is running out. 60 minutes are up. Did we miss to talk about something important?
I just think it's really important to include the, the contemporary study of astrology, what astrologers are doing now in an academic context. So a lot of academics, they'll study Renaissance and medieval astrology because it's kind of safe. Astrology is a very loaded language for many people in many educated Westerners. It's a loaded word, and they react rather badly to it. So even to study modern astrology academically, anthropologically, historically, can still be considered controversial. Whereas for me, it's a really, really important part of contemporary culture. You need to understand it in order to understand a lot of contemporary Western culture. So that's partly my mission. I encourage my students, wherever possible, to do their research into uh, the current condition of modern astrology, what modern astrologers are saying now, what they're doing now, and so on.
You are meeting with students after this interview. How many students do you have at the moment in the MA?
I think because we're starting a new academic year, there'll probably be about 70 or 80.
That's
All of
okay.
them, they're almost all part-time.
Yes.
So studying over usually 3 to 4 years.
Okay, so I think we managed to stay in the time frame.
Thank you, Volker.
And for the viewers and myself, thank you very much to Professor Nicholas, Professor Dr. Nicholas Campion of the University Trinity St. David's in Lampeter in Wales. Lampeter is a small town, right?
It's a very small town. The campus there is very beautiful. It's absolutely lovely. I'll tell you one thing about the campus is it was laid out by an architect who was a Freemason in the 1810s, and it's exactly on a north, south, east, west axis, so on the cardinal points.
So everybody in the neighborhood visit the campus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks again, and I stop the recording.